This is Umar Ahmed for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. With me today on IFL, two very special guests, Eubank Jr. and Mr. Kalle Sauerland, the man himself. Kalle, I'll come to you first. Just talk to us about what this deal with Chris and Boxer includes for Wasserman.
So, yeah, I mean, first of all, it's been a fantastic announcement today. Chris, the new marquee name at Sky, is obviously fantastic. It's what he deserves and puts us on a platform of going now and sealing the deals on the big fights. From Wasserman Boxing, it's going to be very interesting. We've signed a multi-fight deal with Boxer to present boxing on Sky Sports, which is something we look very forward to. Some shows will involve Chris, some won't involve Chris, but it will include pay-per-view shows and also normal events. And looking very forward to making that a success, But we don't have long because October 2nd is round the corner. This man is already in fine form. Tickets go on sale now. So we've got 4 weeks to that one, which, of course, as a promoter, we're now racing on time. And I'm already working on the big December one for Chris as well. So that's exciting, but it's not without its challenges, but not ones that we haven't overcome before and in the past. So very exciting, obviously a big move for us. I think we're the fastest growing UK stable, and we've signed obviously 8-9 fighters, and there's going to be at least 2 or 3 more to come in the next 7 to 10 days, and a couple of them are also very tasty names. So, but first and foremost today, the message is out there. The new UK marquee name at Sky sitting next to me. Chris, how does that feel? Sorry, I'm asking the questions now. How does it feel, Chris?
No, listen, I'm happy to be here. I've had a great relationship with Sky over the years, and now that we partnered up with them, and that they're pushing me like they are. It's it's definitely the fuel injection I needed. And I'm not going to let this opportunity go to waste. I'm full steam ahead now.
Chris, obviously, you're.
Umar, you got us, yeah?
Yeah, there was a bit of connection lag there, but I got the message in the end.
Okay.
Chris, obviously, you're familiar to Sky Sports. You've been on that platform many times on Box Office as well, but this is a big moment in your career. You're now, like Kalle said, the face. You're leading the charge on Sky Sports. You're out October 2nd. Obviously, a lot changing for you. I do want to ask you as well about the personal stuff that's been going on in your life. Obviously, a difficult time, and we all send our condolences to you and your family about the passing of your brother Seb. How's this period been for you, Chris?
Tough. It's been very tough. I've never experienced anything like physically hurdle. That coupled with the fact that I got COVID, very serious about COVID, means that we find ourselves in a situation where we need to find the right fight to get back in the ring. And October 2nd, Sven Elbeer, 18-1, solid opponent. It's the right fight for me to have at this time of my life. Get past him, big names at the end of the year. That's what we're doing.
Kalle, I'll come to you for this one. Why Sven? Tell us a little bit about him.
Well, I just like to add to what Chris just said, and separately to that, you have to. I mean, what Chris has been through in the last couple of months, we don't go through sometimes in a lifetime. It's you can't even have empathy because the situation was that chronic and that devastating that you can't empathise with things like that. So we messaged a few times, and obviously there was maximum space given him. And Junior came back and said, look, it shows, I think, the hunger, the desire, and he'll know himself, the motivational factors, whether those have even changed now, whether those are also, there's other elements in there. But ultimately, to have a professional like that makes me very proud of the way he handles himself as a third 31-year-old gentleman, and that is something that has impressed me over this period. You know, he's flown in from the States for 2 days of filming now. He's moved to camp especially to get around this. And that sort of professionalism is something I've seen it from him in the World Boxing Super Series. It's a joy to work with, and you can see why a big network like Sky see the value in that as well. I mean, it's all great having a good boxer, but you know, it's about professionalism outside the ring. You know, there is a lot of competition these days between platforms. You know, so you know, I think we made the right decision with Sky, pushing him forward. Very happy with that, but in terms of what the journey for the year, we of course had to readapt. We were pretty close to actually announcing, weren't we? A world title fight. I'm not going to say who that was, but you can sort of work it out. For September, that of course had to change, and we looked at it and we said, no, let's take a one. You know, let's increase the fight from the last fight and take a step forward. There's no in our fight someone who's in the world ranking, someone 18-1. Actually, the one on his record was against another Wasserman boxing fighter, and he's still screaming blue murder about that decision. So he thinks he's 18. He thinks he's 19-0. Actually, very competitive fighter. We think it's the right match to make, where we get out of that fight just enough to move forward and get through it, because we are in advanced negotiations for a very big fight at the end of the year, which will be on Sky pay-per-view.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Is it going to be a box office fight at the end of the year?
At the end of the year, yeah. This obviously is launching a new era of Sky, and that's great. But there's a big box office fight coming at the end of the year, and I think that will be one that everyone will be interested in, and it's heating up.
So will that be for a world title? Can you give us that?
It's a colourful fight. So we're gonna have to see whether it's for a title, not for a title. We're in contact with the WBA at the moment. Obviously, they've stopped this interim champions. Chris was actually the interim world champion. Now they've made this ruling. There's no interim champs, but you're then the mandatory. So it's an ongoing situation, as it sometimes is with the federations. But we're in daily contact there. But it's a sort of fight that we think, sometimes you don't need belts on the line. Sometimes you do. Not going to give away more than that, but it will definitely get the pulses going. Let's put it that way.
Chris, aside from this pay-per-view fight that Kalle's referring to at the end of the year, who's still on your hit list?
Anybody with a belt, anybody with a name the public want me to fight. Is there anybody at the top of the list? Yes, I would want to fight Golovkin. He is, in terms of world boxing, he's a huge name, and he has a world title.
Been there for 10 years now as well, isn't he?
Yes, he has. But obviously, what you want and what you can get at any given time are two different things. I want to fight Canelo Alvarez, but it's all good saying that. Can you make it happen? I've got to get myself in a position to where those fights can actually be made. But yeah, there's a lot of exciting fights out there to be made, a lot of big names. So that's all coming within the next 12 months, 100%.
And if I just going to add a little bit of meat to that bone. So with Golovkin's people we've spoken already, Barata's people we've spoken already, and they're clearly boxing, and then we'll see what happens from that. And then then there's a lot of other fights out there to make. We threw in the Kell Brook one, went to them, they didn't come back. Fair enough. Was always going to be an ask whether they can do it at a weight class. Chris is coming down from super middle to middle, so would that be something for them? They didn't seem to fancy it.
I'm not really coming down though. I had to go up. You went up to fight. Went up to fight at super middleweight.
Yeah,
so middleweight is where I'm actually.
Where you're
I'm walking around right now.
For the moment, I mean, you're 31. You know, it's not always easy to keep that 18 pack of yours in shape.
You know, listen, my metabolism isn't slowing down. I can't put the weight on. I'm walking around right now with 165 pounds.
And he's just got off a transatlantic flight, jet lagged up. And he was the freshest man. The biggest smile in the room this morning was with this man. I said to my brother, I said, "Oh, he's going to be in a grumpy mood this morning." He was nice.
Oh, I was grumpy, but then I had, you know, a couple of lattes, and it perked me up a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, you know, I'm not a super middleweight, and I would only really move back up to super middleweight to fight a Canelo, that type of fight,
legacy fight.
You know, other than that, I don't need to, because there's so many big names and big fights that can be made at middleweight.
Okay.
Very true.
Okay. But
I mean, also middleweight on the domestic scene, there's, you know, I mean, one who's shouting around a lot is Liam Williams at the moment, you know, which would be a terrific fight to make. There's lots and lots of options out there for that December one, but we've got to close that off very quickly, because obviously it's, you know, big fights, you can't announce them and expect to promote them 2 weeks later. So we're busy working on that.
Kalle and Chris, is the pair of you. A fight, of course, that Chris has always been linked with is that Billy Joe Saunders rematch. Now, we don't know whether he'll box again. So, Chris, I'll come to you. Do you think we'll see Billy Joe Saunders in a ring ever again?
You'd have to ask him. You know, I don't know. I don't know.
But just the way that fight ended with Canelo, if you had to give your opinion?
Listen, he took that fight because he wanted the money. He was the sacrificial lamb. So, you know, a fight with me is the same thing. You're going to get a serious amount of money. So I would expect that he would take that fight if the opportunity was there. And likewise, I'm not going to say no to that fight, even though he doesn't have a world title. The history there, the demand from the public, that's always going to be a fight of interest to me. Is he on my radar? Absolutely not. But if there was an opportunity to make the fight, I'm always going to be interested. So, you know, we'll have to see what the future holds for that one.
Kalle, outside of Joshua Fury, do you think that's potentially the biggest domestic fight that can be made, Eubank Jr. and Billy Joe Saunders?
I think that fight, I'll be lying as a promoter if I told you I wouldn't want to make that fight. I think that fight does Wembley Stadium. I think it's absolutely ginormous. And it's huge because of the rivalry. But, you know, we all know what domestic rivalry, and you asked me before about world title, not world title. I think domestic rivalry always trumps a world title. You know, we just have to look at, I know that, you know, Froch Groves 2 was for belts, but ultimately, had there been the Mickey Mouse belt on the line, I don't think anyone would have not bought a ticket, you know. So it is often about rivalries. I mean, you know, we just have to look at, you know, Chris's father's years. You know, that wasn't about, you know, there wasn't too many of the Americans involved in that. It was about, you know, Senior, Ben, Collins, Watson, you know, great fighters and putting on great fights. So do I see some of the rivalry from the past there? Yeah, I mean, there is some sort of, you always see a reflection of that. But I think, you know, from my side, I wish Billy Joe a good recovery, and then we'll see down the line. I mean, I'm close with his people. I know them very well, so we can work out a deal there. But right now, I think he's taking time out of the sport, and one has to respect that.
And just to put a little bit of more meat on that bone, there is no recovery. The guy is perfectly fine. He quit. He got a black eye and he didn't want it anymore with Canelo. There was no smashed orbital bone. There was no broken eye socket. He swallowed it. He gave up. And that's why he's been MIA for the last however many months, because of the shame of what he did. So yeah, you know, if he ever grows a pair and wants to get back in the ring, you know, we're here. So we'll see what happens.
Where did you get the that opinion from, Chris, that there was no broken orbital bone? Have you heard something from someone?
There's nothing to hear. If that was the truth, then there would have been doctors' reports. There would have been pictures. The guy was driving around in his car a week later with sunglasses on. If you've broken your eye, that doesn't happen. As simple as that.
Okay, we'll see what happens with that situation, but I think that's more for perhaps next year. You've got October 2nd to concentrate on, and then, as Kalle alluded to,
as you can see, the Billy and Chris, they have a long relationship. As I'm feeling off him right now.
It just makes me angry that some people actually, actually believe that he went through these injuries that he claims. We're not robots. We're not sheep. If you actually put two and two together, no, he quit.
Okay. Well, listen, best of luck October 2nd, and then in that massive pay-per-view fight at the end of the year. We look forward to it. Congratulations on your move with Sky. Kalle, I appreciate your time on IFL. Just before I'll let you go, I do want to get your thoughts on a certain Mr. Jake Paul who boxed on the weekend. Are we Jake Paul fans or not?
Am I a fan? I'm a fan in terms of the publicity and the hype and the focus that he's bringing to the sport, the new audiences. I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of, him getting these real fighters, their highest paydays of their careers. That I'm a fan of all that. Am I a fan of his boxing? No. I mean, he's not a boxer. He's, the guy's had 4 fights. But at the end of the day, he's getting in the ring. He's putting it on the line. He did fight a legitimate fighter in his last fight. Tyron Woodley he was a legitimate martial artist. Got to respect that. It's interesting to see how boxing is kind of changing, and the new wave and the new path that it's splitting off into. It took me a lifetime to get a pay-per-view, to get on a pay-per-view event, and he did it in 3 or 4 fights, which is, blows my mind as a fighter. But like I said, it's a new age now. If you have a following, if you have if you have enough people clicking subscribe on your YouTube channel, you can pretty much do whatever you want. And he's decided to put that focus into boxing, which I actually can't be mad at, because there's people out there that never would have even thought about boxing that are now boxing fans, and they will transfer over to the real fighters. So that I am a fan of.
Kalle?
Oh, you're not going to ask me this question, are you?
We'll be here till tomorrow.
No. As you know, we are in. We have a partnership with KSI, and I've said, similar to what Chris just said, a little bit of a different take on it is that we get fresh eyeballs on the sport, and I look at them as novices. So just because he's got 30 million YouTube followers, well, I'm not going to look at him from a sporting point of view differently. I wouldn't match him differently either. I get that certain fights are made, what everyone reads into a Logan Paul Mayweather fight, one can read into. I think I've given my opinions on that in the past, but it ultimately brings fresh eyeballs to it. It brings in money, where I see boxers boxing on cards and earning good money. I was just thinking about one former world champion that I represented, Steve Cunningham. He was on a Triller card recently. Steve and me go back years and years, and I was very proud to be his promoter. I thought he retired, and clearly he's picked up some nice dollars, retirement money, and that's a positive for me. That is, we're a sport that is not funded by any governments or anything like that. There's no pension scheme for boxers, So anything like that is anyone who knocks it, get in a ring, yeah. But at the same time, one has to treat it carefully, and that's what we'll be announcing a little bit more about our KSI partnership probably in the next few weeks, and that will begin next year, doing events, and I think that there's an interesting market for it, but it's about how you treat them. If you treat them as 30-0 boxers who've done it their whole lives, then it can actually be very dangerous. And if you look at it though as a novice, who, like Chris said, you know, it's, the only difference is they can fast track the career route by doing 4 rounders on pay-per-view, because they have more subscribers than most television networks. Yeah, so it's bizarre on the one hand, but actually it's just a sign of the times. You know, if you would have said to me, "Oh, most boxing runs off apps, and it probably will run more and more off apps in the next couple of years and OTT platforms," you know, that's just a sign of the times. You know, even I've had to get used to looking at Instagram and things like this. You know, it's just, I mean, you know, and I feel old. I'm 44, but that is what's happening, and that, you know, a generation is dying off and the next generation is coming through, and this is what they want to see. And if this introduces them to boxing, and by the way, an interesting demographic on boxing is most boxing fans have turned boxing fans around the age of 40, right? No one can explain the phenomenon, but that's what it is. Yeah,
They've turned
when they turn around 40, people convert into boxing fans. So that normally ones that have watched a bit here, they're casuals, but that's the age of, if you look at the demographics worldwide, we did a big look at this. How do you get that younger? And this is a one way of making it a younger demographic. And that's what boxing is doing. There's certain countries where you have a younger demographic. The UK is definitely a younger demographic than to Germany, for example. You know, you go to a boxing show in Germany and it's all champagne and lobster and caviar and sitting there with a slow cap. You go to events in the UK and it's all about throwing the beer around, you know. So it's a very different vibe in different countries, but in general, the average boxing fan is 40 plus, and that's something we need to work on.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Oh, your demographic for your fans a bit younger,
Okay.
a bit cooler, aren't you? You know,
Yeah, I'd like to
but
think
if I was a boxer, it'd be 60 plus. You know,
maybe.
C'est la vie. Anyways, that's why he is the new marquee face of Sky.
You don't look 44, Kalle.
No, I know that. Thank you for telling me the obvious. I'm aware. Oil of Ulay once a day. I had to get that in as part of my sponsorship deal with them. It actually still exists. I'm not sure if it still exists, but it was that old advert, Oil of Ulay once a day.
Yeah, I remember the other.
So, yeah. But thank you for that, Umar.
No, listen, Chris Eubank Jr, Kalle Sauerland, appreciate your time on IFLC. We will speak on Fight Week, all right?
Okay. Good to
Perfect.
speak to you.
Thank you, guys.